Chances are, even if you haven't ridden a wave on a surfboard or know what a Rio or a floater is, you've probably heard of Rip Curl, the company that makes all kinds of clothes and surfing products. And if you happen to live in France, Brazil, Argentina or Japan, it's still likely to be a brand name that you would know about. Because this Australian company has manufacturers or licensees in all of these countries. In this program, we're going to look at various aspects of Rip Curl's somewhat unorthodox approach to business and learn some lessons that could apply to any other business venture. The story of Rip Curl is the story of the growth of a very successful international business from what was literally a backyard operation. It all started in a backyard garage in Torquay, 100 kilometres from Melbourne, close to some of the best surf beaches in the country. In 1969, Doug Warbrick lost his job as a surfboard maker and suggested to a friend and fellow surfer, Brian Singer, that they start their own business making boards.
I was very interested in surfing, and my friend asked me one day if I wanted to make surfboards with him. So I said yes immediately.
Their start-up capital was somewhat limited.
We had $500.
Jobs at the time were becoming hard to get, and apart from needing some form of income to pay the bills, there was the attraction of being able to earn money close to the waves. And this is one aspect of the business that hasn't changed in more than 20 years.
And I guess the real fundamental motivation was, in the beginning, was to support a surfing lifestyle. We really wanted to be able to maximise our surfing time or our time travelling and adventuring in order to find, you know, the perfect wave and things like of that nature. So you need more time flexibility. And in the beginning, in a small business, time flexibility is available.
Well, we started actually with surfboards. So we bought surfboard blanks, we bought some fiberglass, we bought some resin, and we did up my garage. And after a few weeks, we started actually producing surfboards.
With very little start-up capital, money from one sale was used to cover the costs of materials to make the next board. The surfboard sold, but the real break for the business happened just a few months later when Doug and Brian started to make wetsuits.
Within a matter of months, we recognised that there was a real lack in wetsuits. We'd had a little bit to do with wetsuits before, but we recognised that they were not efficient for our conditions here in Victoria, particularly where it's cold in winter, and we needed more warmth, more flexibility, and it just seemed obvious to us that there was an opportunity in wetsuits, one, to produce a better product and get a, better performance, and secondly, it seemed like a bigger business opportunity.
There was an undersupply. The other major brand, it was an American brand actually being made under licence in Adelaide, and they couldn't supply. So the surf shops opened their arms to us and said, "Oh, Rip Curl, we know about you. Wetsuits, okay, yeah, we'll buy some. We can't get any of the other one."
Starting from scratch with wetsuit making meant taking on all kinds of new skills. Things like learning how to sew rubber with a pre-1940s sewing machine.
Oh, we just fooled around with one sheet of rubber at a time, and when it wasn't quite right, we'd take an inch off here and add a couple of centimetres there, and tried it on ourselves. And of course we were surfing all the time, and if it didn't feel right, we'd change it, come back out of the water and change it immediately.
Information about the materials and production techniques was gleaned from the various material and machinery suppliers.
When we got into making wetsuits, I would visit sewing machine places up in Melbourne, for example, and listen intently to what the sewing machine people were saying. I would listen intently to what the the rubber manufacturers were saying.
Apart from being able to make their surfboards and wetsuits close to where the waves were breaking, marketing the products in the early days also provided a great opportunity to combine business with a surfing lifestyle.
We would fill up an old combi full of wetsuits and I would drive up the coast visiting surf shops and surfing along the way and dropping in at surf shops and selling wetsuits.
The idea worked, and because of the demand for the locally produced wetsuits, other people were asked to help and the business started to grow in size. And for the same lifestyle reasons that Brian and Doug had for starting the venture, most of these people, like Doug Rogers, who is now Rip Curl's retail manager, were also surfers. These were people who understood the products that they were making and selling, and who also wanted to work near the ocean and the surf.
Yes, well, I suppose in the early days, the only people who wanted to work at Rip Curl were surfers. It seemed like a great way to earn a living and get to surf plenty of times as well.
Because of this close contact with the market they were supplying, a drive to produce a quality product and the lack of effective competition, in a matter of just 3 years, Rip Curl wetsuits were being worn by most of the world's top surfers. By the early 1980s, Rip Curl had won a number of state and federal government awards for successfully exporting its products to a number of countries, products now being used by people windsurfing, sailing, water skiing, as well as surfing. By this time, Rip Curl was also manufacturing in the United States, in a location that was once again close to a popular surfing beach, Trestles in California. In 1980, new premises were opened at Torquay, which incorporated offices, a showroom and a factory. It's a far cry from the backyard garage that Brian and Doug had started the business from, just a few hundred metres down the road. Things have changed. Today in 1993, Rip Curl employs about 150 people in Torquay. There's a shop at Tullamarine Airport, and offices and a showroom in Sydney. The company manufactures in the USA and France and has licensed manufacturers of Rip Curl designs in New Zealand, South Africa, Japan, Argentina, Brazil and the Middle East, with a product range which now includes an extensive range of clothing, skiwear and surfing accessories. Rip Curl continues to make surfboards, but they represent only a small fraction of the sales income. Wetsuits are still very much the flagship product of the company, but surfing-inspired clothing is now the operation's biggest earner, with a market for trendy gear that extends far beyond the surfing scene. Rip Curl started out as a two-person operation, making surfboards with a start-up capital of $500. An important reason for starting the business and a continuing influence on the company today is the consideration of the lifestyle of the owners and management staff. Diversification of the product range has been a very important factor in the growth of the company into an international operation. We will be having a closer look at this later in the program. The growth of Rip Curl is an impressive story, but one that could not have happened without an intelligent and sometimes unorthodox management style. The two original owners, Brian Singer and Doug Warbrick, are still at the helm of the company and have a final say about everything from product development to promotional strategies and financial matters. And if you accept a popular definition of a small business as one in which the owners of the company make most of the management decisions, then Rip Curl could still be viewed as a small business.
They still perform a very active role in the company. I mean, they are responsible for the general management and the marketing and the advertising and the design and development of product. Brian is more involved in the management and the business decisions and even the product decisions. Doug is more hands-on on the marketing or the touch and feel type stuff, the advertising and all of that area.
It's probably because of Brian and Doug's strong personal influence and their continued involvement in the surfing scene that there is an impressive company policy of both customer and product orientation. In other words, understanding what the customers want and then providing these products. It's this central policy that has shaped the Rip Curl management structure and their overriding attitude to business.
We took the view that rather than have I guess you could call it the classical management structure where you've got a managing director and he has reporting to him a manufacturing manager, a sales manager, a marketing manager and a finance manager. We took a different view and said, well, let's break it up differently, and at that stage we were making wetsuits, we were doing surfwear clothing and we had accessories on the go. So we said, well, let's have people who are specialists in these areas, and let's have, for example, the wetsuit guy, and he knows all about the wetsuits, all the way from production, all the way through to the final consumer. So he knows the whole deal about wetsuits, and he can, if anybody's got a problem or a story on wetsuits, he's the guy that's in charge of wetsuits.
And the guy who's in charge of wetsuits is Ray Thomas.
I oversee from the sales side. I sort of run the salesmen, or our agents that we call them now. I take care of them, and I also do all the costings of the wetsuits, put together designs with other people in the place, not just my design ideas. I source the raw materials from Japan, Korea, Taiwan. So I sort of select the best materials, or work with the suppliers to develop new materials, and oversee the production.
So the Rip Curl management structure looks like this. Brian Singer is managing director, and all of these areas report to him via a manager. Rod Adams, the company secretary, is responsible for these. Doug Warbrick is executive director and looks after skiwear, Rip Curl International and print media. The surfing accessories manager is Peter Hodgart, and being a product line manager at Rip Curl certainly doesn't mean sitting behind a desk 8 hours a day.
I've just delivered 3 months of this summer's product. So at this stage, manually today, I've been down unloading a container. So it's down to that degree that I will then become a box packer on Christmas Day to get the stuff out the door. So my responsibilities basically are to design it right through to the day and follow it right through to the day it goes to a shop.
The company philosophy of living the life of the customer also means that, with the exception of Rod, Rip Curl staff are all still keen surfers, and if the surf is looking good, you could find your business appointment has been rescheduled. It also means a more relaxed attitude to business generally, at least on the surface. Rip Curl staff don't tend to fit the usual image of the corporate business person.
The style of management at Rip Curl differs from probably many other places in the respect that it is informal, that it is less structured, it is more hands-on. For example, when a truck comes in to the warehouse, we often go down and unpack the truck, or if we have a busy day in the warehouse, we're often down there packing boxes.
It might sound unusual for management to be helping like this, but according to Rod, this does make very good business sense.
I guess when businesses get large, managers become a little bit more distant from what's happening on the shop floor, from what their customers' needs are, and that can create all sorts of problems. Obviously a manager, an MD, chairman, can't have his finger on the pulse at the shop level or at the customer level, but from time to time he really needs to go down to the shop floor, talk to the staff, go out and meet the real customers, the real consumers of the product, in order to really find out what's happening at the company. this is where a lot of companies come unstuck. Sure, you can employ good managers who are supposed to do that to you, but ultimately as a chairman or as an MD of a company, you're ultimately responsible. And the best way I find to find out what's really happening is to talk to customers and talk to the end users of the product, talk to the staff, etc.
Another characteristic of Rip Curl's approach to business management is that the management staff operate on a long leg rope. There are high demands placed on people, but there is a lot of surfer-style freedom to operate with.
Brian's always had a golden rule that he may not tell everyone, but certainly told me when I met him in Japan, and that was that responsibility in a company like Rip Curl is never given to anybody. The person takes the responsibility. And it's not just a matter of showing you're capable of handling the responsibility, it's a matter of just getting in and grabbing it by the throat and doing the job because the job's there to be done. So if you've got the foresight to see the job's there to be done, you do it, you will progress in a company like Rip Curl. If you just do your 9 to 5, no more, no less, you'll probably end up out of a job in a company like Rip Curl.
I think a lot of the times they've broken a lot of the rules in management. It's been a fairly loose management. They've trusted, but trust would play a big part in it. They've allowed the other managers, product managers and so forth to do their thing, and they've given them the trust and the trust in that person to sort of go out and follow their own sort of mind rather than sort of being dictated to by senior management. So it's a lot of it has not come directly from management. Management gives us the guidelines and allows the other managers, the product managers and so forth to do their own thing their own way. And so everyone sort of develops at their own pace and they can sort of really blossom inside the company management structure.
However, one thing you do notice at Rip Curl, which doesn't seem so enlightened these days, is that it's the guys who have the exciting jobs at the top and not the girls. The females are in the less high-powered positions. But rather than a blatant sexist policy, it's probably more of a reflection of the general surfing scene. It's still mostly the male of the species you find out there on the waves, and Brian and Doug do insist that a good working knowledge of Rip Curl's market and products is vital to the success of the business.
It's just that as more women get in, or the ladies get into the surfing, that they'll probably be more and more in the sort of management side of things as well. As the experience and sort of knowledge of the industry is also a big point, and not a lot of the ladies have got that experience just as yet.
To summarise, the original owners of Rip Curl are still very involved in all aspects of the company and have an important say in the overall running of the operation. In spite of this, they've put into place a very participative and consultative management style where each product range is managed by a person who is given quite a lot of freedom in relation to the decision-making process for the particular products. Each of these line managers is responsible for everything to do with the range of product, from sourcing raw materials to production, promotion and distribution. As we've seen, the plan for Rip Curl in the early days was very much a case of running a business, manufacturing products which were carefully designed to fit the needs of the surfing market, and to support a lifestyle, a surfing lifestyle for its owners and employees. Although the lifestyle considerations are still important, the company today is a very different animal from the business that started in that Torquay garage.
It's a bit less fun now, but there's a lot of advantages financially for everybody. As you get older, I suppose, you get a little bit more conventional and think you need those money things.
To make sure that these financial advantages continue, the company now has a more structured approach to planning. The Rip Curl mission statement states, Rip Curl only wants to make the very best products of the very best quality. Rip Curl will give excellent service to our customers. We should have a strong relationship with each customer based on trust and credibility. Rip Curl wants to act ethically and credibly, i.e. do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If anyone makes a promise on Rip Curl's behalf, then keep it. We want to all listen to our customers at every opportunity, as we want everyone to be proud of our products and service. And the overall planning strategy for Rip Curl's budget year of 1993 to 94 is to grow and strengthen the Rip Curl name. Recognise that the surfing boom of the past 3 or 4 years has levelled in Australia for a while. Reduce borrowings. Strengthen relationship with key retailers. Increase gross profit margins. Broaden advertising beyond specialty media, and through this add value to the brand name and increase sales. Keep improving the quality of the product and delivery times. Strengthen sales with existing retailers across the broad product range. And in simple terms, Company Secretary Rod Adams puts it this way.
Rip Curl's focus for the next 12 months really is to design quality product, deliver it on time, and back it up with the best fit service. That's a very simple philosophy that really doesn't matter whether you're selling finance from a bank or whether you're selling pizzas or whether you're selling surfing products. That's the name of the game these days.
Another document usually associated with the company's plans and objectives is the business plan. This would normally include documents summarising the state of the industry, production plans, marketing plans, budget forecasts, implementation strategies, and an evaluation and review plan. For many operations, the business plan can certainly be very useful in providing a planned goal for a company's management. And it's also important when applications are made for large business loans, as this collection of documents gives a financier a good indication of the risk he or she is taking. But a formal business plan doesn't always find a place in the dynamic nature of this surfing business.
We have in the past had business plans, 3 and 5 year business plans, but we find with the constant changing of our customers, the constant changing of our product, and the constant changing of the organisation to meet our customers' needs, they go out the window fairly fast. What we do is we do prepare annual budgets, which are taken seriously and which are required to be met. We do prepare monthly and quarterly accounts to report on the progress of the organisation and of the group. But as far as long-term plans, the environment's too volatile and changes too much to really warrant that type of formality in business planning.
However, Brian Singer adds that in his view, Rip Curl does have a business plan. It's just that it's different to the plans that many companies have, which focus on financial figures, profit and return on investment. In Rip Curl's case, the business plan focuses on customers and products, and if this is done effectively, then the profit will come as a byproduct. As mentioned in the budget strategy, the current plans for Rip Curl are to adjust to what is being seen as a levelling out in the recent surfing boom.
It was very pleasing to see how ourselves and most of our competitors could do over the past few years, but for some reason or other it's really tightened up now. We had a lot of growth. The industry may have grown 30, possibly even 50% over the period of the recession. So I think that growth has come to an end. We may not go backwards, but I don't think we're going to experience the growth that we have over the past few years. So right now it has to be a little bit steady as she goes, and it's had to be the whole time through the recession. We've had to run things very tightly and not take any big risks.
Initially, the plan for the company was simply to support a surfing lifestyle for the owners. While this is still a factor for the owners and the staff, the current direction for Rip Curl is expressed in terms of its mission statement and its annual strategy. Rip Curl does not have a formal 4 to 5 year business plan based on numbers, but generally the company intends to proceed carefully in the near future while adjusting to the perceived slowdown in the surfing industry growth pattern.
It's one of those areas sometimes you aim for growth and sometimes you get more than you aim for. So it's a little bit of hang on to the wild horse and ride it sometimes. It's change is terrific, and sometimes the best change is one you don't really know it's coming.
Initially, for Brian and Doug, the growth of Rip Curl was a gradual process.
We got to the stage where myself and my partner had to hire other people, and then we had to hire wetsuit cutters and sewers and so forth, and then had to hire sales reps and accountants, and you keep adding people to do the jobs.
So it was kind of a natural growth, and there's no real shock when you employ them one or two at a time.
But with the move overseas and something of a surfing boom in the early to mid-80s, growth became more frantic with employee numbers rising dramatically. New products, new markets and increased sales can mean increased profits, but rapid unexpected expansion can also cause real problems.
If the rate of growth had continued for the next couple of years, yes, that would have created a lot of strain on both the management and on the resources. Essentially, from an accounting point of view, Rip Curl could probably fund from internally generated profits alone a growth of about 20%, 15 to 20%. But if we had sustained growth above that, that would create a lot of pressure on Rip Curl and on its management, and we would start to see cracks appearing probably within 12 months to 2 years.
The cracks that Rod is talking about would have resulted from the need to finance the increased staff levels, the quantities of raw materials, and the new manufacturing equipment required for further growth by either borrowing money or selling equity. In other words, a share of the company to an outside party.
We would rather finance our own growth and grow at a slower rate and enjoy the lifestyle and enjoy the rewards of a slower growing company than have all the glory associated with a huge company.
Another move that could have accelerated the growth of Rip Curl was the possibility of the operation becoming a public company.
I guess it's fair to say that during the 80s we got sidetracked to a degree, and we were listening to advisors, and we had monthly meetings with various advisors from Melbourne, and we seriously considered, along with a number of the other companies in Australia in the 80s, going public, doing a public listing. And in retrospect, we found that we were making decisions that were more aimed at short-term profit making rather than based on longer-term customer or product needs. So we backed out of that, and we learned a good lesson from that.
Once again, the concept of customer and product focus comes up. It's not a policy that is exclusive to Rip Curl, but compared to many other Australian businesses, the people in this company are certainly a lot closer to their market and their products. Rip Curl grew gradually from its start-up in 1969 and experienced accelerated growth from the early to mid-80s. Risks of rapid expansion could have meant strain on company management and resources to keep pace with the growth. Floating the company on the stock market would have potentially given the company more capital to work with, but according to Brian Singer, could have resulted in a focus on short-term decisions based on profit-making rather than satisfying the needs of Rip Curl's customers. It's one thing to have a great product like a surfboard or a wetsuit, but it's something else to be able to market it and then to sell it. A common approach to marketing is to consider it in terms of 4 aspects: the product itself, its price, the place where the product is to be marketed, or in other words, how the product is to be distributed and how it is to be promoted. We're already familiar with Rip Curl's product range, but is there more to it? What is Rip Curl really selling?
We sell a dream. That's what Rip Curl is, it's a dream. It's a lifestyle dream. And to create and carry on that lifestyle, there are certain products that you need.
Products arrive from customer needs and our perceptions of what customers need. Essentially, management creates the product from what they perceive as needed in the marketplace that is shown to various retailers and other staff within Rip Curl, and depending upon whether or not they like the product, we produce it or not. That's really no different to a McCain's or a Mars type environment where they create a meal and they run it around the office and show what and get the reaction from the other staff. It's the same sort of philosophy.
In line with Rip Curl's policy of making products that are designed to meet the needs of their customers, quality is the first consideration rather than price. Generally, Rip Curl products, such as the wetsuits, are more expensive than those of their competitors.
Well, I guess Rip Curl, because we put a lot more time into the technical side of the wetsuits rather than just making a wetsuit for a price, the cost and the margin that we must work with and the margin that the retailers need, it does, that combined with a market price, so to speak, determines what the price is going to be. But Rip Curl's always been in the top end because we try to make the best wetsuits rather than make wetsuits at just a price.
Rip Curl products in Australia are distributed from the headquarters in Torquay to the company's own shops in Torquay and Tullamarine Airport, plus another 500 retail outlets. In states other than Victoria, agents for Rip Curl handle the distribution to the various retailers, but in addition, Rip Curl staff also visit their retailing customers to keep in close touch with the market.
I visit every state with a sample of everything, a set of samples for that state's sales rep. That sales rep will then take me to the 6 major accounts of that state. I personally sell the range in front of the buyer, in front of the salesman, because no one knows a product like me because I build it.
Because of the importance of smooth and efficient distribution, Doug and Brian also visit retailers in other parts of the country and still take the opportunity to combine this with their favourite pastime.
Myself and my partner still visit our retail shops that we sell to, and we still visit beaches all the way up and down the coast to see. We like surfing, and of course you keep an eye on what's going on.
Promotion is the way that the products or images of the products are presented to the marketplace. For Rip Curl, this includes advertising in the surfing press and through posters and sponsorships of surfing events. Rip Curl's young market is very image conscious, and the quality of promotional material is critical. Once again, because of their knowledge of the scene, the Rip Curl approach is very much hands-on. Rather than call in outside help, all of this material is produced in-house. The company employs 4 graphic artists, but the management staff also have input. Quite a lot of the Rip Curl advertising doesn't actually feature details of the manufactured items. The advertising is for the product, and that isn't so much the hardware as the lifestyle.
I mean, everybody in these days with marketing is really selling a dream. I mean, with the wetsuits without the logos, etc., don't really mean much. You know, I mean, they might be functional, etc., but the reason people are buying the wetsuits, which sometimes it bugs me a bit. I try to make the best wetsuit, but quite often I make this best wetsuit that, you know, it's got all the right features and the design's right, and the reason the guys bought it is because of the colour or the shape of the logo, you know. I mean, you've got to get both things right.
As far as promotion is concerned, those colourful logos really are very important.
I suppose Japan would be the epitome of that. There's so many manufacturers and brands over there, but they really want the ones that they've seen in the magazines for so long, the really big, important brands as far as they're concerned. And I think that's why it will be a marketplace, even though those people might have the ability to manufacture an equivalent product. People still want the brand name products that have got all the history behind them, because they associate them with really being part of the sport.
Another important part of Rip Curl's promotion is the identification of the products with professional surfing figures and the sponsorship of surfing events. Back in 1973, Rip Curl sponsored the Bells Beach Easter Surfing Championships. This was the first time that a contest of this kind had received serious sponsorship. For the past 19 years, Rip Curl has continued this involvement and also hosts the Rip Curl Pro event at Hossegor in France, plus sponsoring individual world champion surfers. As far as promotion is concerned, it's also interesting to note the Australian origin of the company is not hidden in overseas campaigns.
Even though it's an independent company in the US and an independent company in France, they push very much that it's Australian. I mean, one of our main slogans is Rip Curl Surfing Australia. You'd see on a lot of our surfwear and accessories and so on, and on our advertising. Even though they have some US and some French ownership, they make it very clear to the market that it's an Australian product.
Marketing involves a mix of product, price, place and promotion. Rip Curl consider their product as being a lifestyle dream, in addition to being technologically advanced items. Prices are competitive, but the emphasis is on quality. Place refers to the way the products are distributed via agents and retailers. And promotion is organised in-house via advertising and sponsorship. As you will have noticed by now, Rip Curl is involved in marketing quite a diverse range of items. There's surfboards, wetsuits, clothes, ski wear and accessories. And the accessories include everything from bags to carry your surfboard in, videos to watch when the surf isn't happening, stickers to put on your car, and a watch that tells you what the tides are doing. Like the growth of the company, new items have been added to the Rip Curl product range as new opportunities have been recognised.
Primarily, we've just tried to read the market needs. I think if you identify market needs and then fill those needs, you are successful.
A recent example has been the addition of ski wear.
Once again, because we were not only avid surfers, but we were quite interested in snow skiing, we noticed that the people up in the mountains were using some of our winter jackets, beach-type jackets. So we thought, well, if they're using those, let's really make them some stuff that works properly. And so we gradually got into the snow ski business, and over a period of 4 or 5 years, I think it's fair to say we're probably the #1 in technical snow ski wear in Australia now.
Apart from the increased market share resulting from the sale of more products, the wide product range also means that the company is protected from a downturn in the sales or profit which might result from reliance on just one product. If Rip Curl only sold wetsuits and for some reason profits fell due to new competition or perhaps dramatic increases in materials costs, the company would be in very bad shape. But because of the diversity of products being marketed, a downturn in wetsuits would not be as significant overall. The product range also helps balance out the seasonal nature of some of the product sales. It's unlikely that ski wear is going to sell well in summer. But in spite of the wisdom of having a diverse range of products, Company Secretary Rod Adams suggests that diversification can bring some companies unstuck.
Diversification of products for diversification's sake is quite dangerous. We've diversified over time because of the needs of our customers. Our customers, we've sold wetsuits, we've sold surfboards. Our customers have wanted clothing to wear when they get out of the water, backpacks to put their wetsuits in when they get out of the water, watches to wear in the water to tell them what the tides are going to do. So diversification from Rip Curl's point of view has been on a needs basis of the customers. Often organisations diversify to diversify their risk in business, and that's very dangerous. I've seen lots of companies come unstuck doing that, mainly because they don't have the experience in the areas in which they're diversifying into.
Rip Curl learned this lesson themselves when they attempted to make wetsuits for skin divers.
So we're obviously pretty good at making wetsuits, and we thought, well, let's make diving wetsuits. But once again, it's a fairly specialised thing, and we didn't understand. We didn't have anybody here who was a diver, and they had slightly different needs. And they needed to be talked to and marketed to slightly differently, so it didn't work that well.
Apart from diversification of the product range, Rip Curl has also diversified its markets, and the advantages are similar. The prime market for the company's products is still the surf scene, and there are also the products especially designed for the windsurfers and skiers, but with the Rip Curl clothing range, the market is quite general and extends to anybody in the community interested in young, casual fashion clothing. These clothes might be inspired by the surfing lifestyle, but you don't have to own a board to wear them. A diversity of products and markets can help to stabilise a company's profits by providing a buffer against fluctuations in the marketplace. However, there is a danger in diversification if new product areas are entered into without appropriate experience and an understanding of the market.
I don't think anybody back in the early 70s would have predicted that Rip Curl would have become one of the major surfing companies in the world.
Because of the close contact with the market they were supplying, a drive to produce a quality product and the lack of effective competition, in a matter of just 3 years after startup, Rip Curl wetsuits were being worn by most of the world's top surfers. And in 1979, the first Rip Curl operation was opened overseas in California.
Well, we set up our own company in the US. It's been trading for about 15 years and it's doing quite well. We have both US and Australian ownership. Same thing in Europe. We've got a company that we set up there 8 or 9 years ago. We've got quite a large amount of the ownership there. Once again, that's going quite well. In the other more smaller or more remote markets, we're normally working with licensees. Sometimes that works well, sometimes it doesn't. But slowly but surely we're having a greater success on an international basis.
An important factor assisting the acceptance of the Rip Curl wetsuits on the international scene was that the label included the words "Made in Australia." This was a positive advantage to the business and gave an edge to Rip Curl over its competitors.
Probably at the basis is Australia's unique position in surfing. I mean, in the sport or the pastime of surfing, we have a very strong position worldwide.
An advantage that the company has over competition from operations based in other countries, including those with cheaper labour costs, has once again been the intimate knowledge of the surfing scene enjoyed by the owners and their staff.
In Asia, obviously you've got a lot lower costs. They have all the technical equipment and etc. that we have, but their practical knowledge of the sport and of marketing and image, they don't have. If they did have, I think we could be in big trouble, you know. But hopefully we're looking towards those people if we can stay ahead of it as being a new part of our market rather than a threat to take over our business.
Apart from setting up operations in other countries, Rip Curl now has a number of other reasons to be conscious of horizons that stretch further than Sydney or Perth. Raw materials, such as the wetsuit fabric, are imported from overseas suppliers, and like a number of other Australian businesses, Rip Curl also manufactures a certain number of its products offshore to take advantage of cheaper labour costs. And this is likely to be an increasing trend in the future.
Any product required for future growth probably will be sourced overseas because of the cheaper labour costs and cheaper costs of production. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality. We're not at this stage prepared to invest a lot more money in Australian production facilities. We would rather utilise the facilities overseas at this stage and see what happens in the short to medium term in terms of the Australian economy, the cost of labour, the industrial reforms and all of that stuff.
But according to Brian Singer, Rip Curl doesn't plan any decrease in its Australian manufacturing facility because consumers are now starting to ask for Australian-made products. And it's easier to make a fast response to increases in demand with domestic production. And it's because Rip Curl sees itself more as a development and design company rather than a manufacturing company that it is exporting its designs and technical knowledge instead of ready-made products. Another way in which Rip Curl could decrease manufacturing costs and increase productivity to enable keener competition with overseas manufacturers would be to use more technology in the factory. But it's not quite that simple.
As far as the improvements in technology for, let's say, cutting and for other areas of production, Rip Curl is not at a size where we can take advantages of lots of those improvements. I mean, essentially to put in automated cutting or to put in automated sewing of garments, we probably have to be 10 times our size. And I mean, that's really where it's at. We can't take advantage of lots of that stuff. And also, I guess, given the situation the rag trade is in right now, with change in tariffs and duties and so on, we'd like to see what happens over the next couple of years before we invest substantially in lots of technology. You know, if the standard of living in China, for example, is going to improve rapidly over the next 2 to 3 years, and make it not cost effective to purchase product out of China, then I'm sure we will look at investing in, say, improved technology for sewing, for cutting, and all of that type of stuff.
Rip Curl operates in a global environment by operating manufacturing and marketing operations in Australia, USA and Europe, plus licensees in other countries. Rip Curl exports designs and technical know-how rather than manufactured products. So far, Rip Curl has not invested in a lot of manufacturing technology because of the size of its manufacturing operation. Rip Curl management's style might be somewhat unusual. However, when it comes to accounting procedures to keep tabs on the operation, Rip Curl's approach is more conventional.
Rip Curl is probably no different to any other organisation in terms of evaluation of performance and measurement of success. Essentially, we use the same methods that all organisations use in terms of financial reporting through balance sheets, profit and loss statements, margin analysis, ratio analysis, and all of the standard traditional tools that both business and banks use to evaluate businesses. We're no different.
But when it comes to keeping a close eye on the business performance, Rod maintains that these figures should only tell management what is already known. He says that by the time you have the figures and reports, they are already history.
You know how your business is going. You know by the phone calls that you're getting in terms for reorders, customer service, complaints, letters that you're getting in through the mail. You know because they're paying you, the customers are paying you fast as against paying you slow. You know how your business is going without really getting the figures. If you need to rely on figures in business to tell you how you're going, then you really haven't got your eye on the ball.
Well, as far as surfing products are concerned, the Rip Curl staff are certainly likely to be in close touch with what is happening with their customers, and the indications are that despite the worldwide recession of the early 90s, Rip Curl is continuing to be an Australian business with a success story. Even though Brian and Doug now head an international multi-million-dollar operation, they have not lost sight of their surfing lifestyle goals, and a key factor in their success has to be the ability to maintain close contact with their market, plus a very basic and straightforward approach to business.
I mean, business can be reasonably simple. You make it for $5 and you sell it for $10, and you don't spend more than $3 or $4 doing it, and you make sure that what you make is what your customer wants.